was the most fatalistic speech I've ever heard in my entire life. Essentially what the speech said was, we can't do anything. The analysis that this side of the House presented makes sense, but we can't do anything. In other words, they accepted our analysis. Our analysis was this. One, nuclear energy will lead to nuclear weapons. Second, in this region of the world, MAD doesn't work. Therefore, nuclear weapons will lead to nuclear war. They accepted everything, and what they basically said is, we can't do anything. Let's leave our lives to fatalism. Let's not try anything, but maybe let's try diplomacy. Let's engage with Tehran. Let's talk to Iran, from Great Britain to Tehran. But what I've shown, and what this team has shown, is the dialogue needs to occur between Israel and Tehran, not necessarily Great Britain and Tehran. Sure, that's helpful. But what needs to happen is in order for Israel and Tehran to come together, to come to the table, in order for there to be a level playing field, nuclear weapons must be removed within this region. And yes, it can happen. Sanctions do work. Sanctions worked in Iraq, sanctions worked in North Korea. Over a long period of time, sanctions are a viable method of doing so. So, in other words, don't believe in fatalism. You have to give this chance a chance. If you believe in fatalism, eventually this region of the world, which is completely awash in weapons, will become a powder keg, basically a fallout. Let's say we've moved on to the fatalism point. Now let's ask ourselves, what's the summarizing goal? What's the one goal that's going to summarize this whole debate? What's going to really summarize this debate is what's really good for the Middle East. Not from the West standpoint. Sure, they have this good catchphrase, the West versus West, but what's really good for the Middle East itself? What is in the Middle East's best interest? I mean, how will the Middle East develop into the 21st century? Will a nuclear weaponized Middle East be really the Middle East of the 21st century? Would that really lead to a situation where MAD doesn't hold? No. Clearly, what we have to address is this. One bit of analysis they had on their side was this poverty analysis. What's going to lead to what's going to lead to more wealth in the Middle East? What will take away from poverty? What's going to take away from poverty is if you follow the route of South Africa. South Africa renounced the use of nuclear weapons. In doing so, they promoted trade. They got people talking to one another. They got groups that were once not talking to one another, and that promoted trade. That's how we're going to move the Middle East into the future. This side of the House opposition believes in faith, believes in hope, and does not believe in fatalism. So, in other words, how do we move away from poverty? We have to get rid of these weapons. And the one stumbling block right now is Israel. If we ask Israel to give up these weapons in exchange for security by the United States, if it be under NATO, they will probably accept it. That any attack on Israel will be responded by the nuclear security umbrella. They will accept it. If they don't accept it, then look, we have to recognize there is a grander scheme at play. There is the world at stake. And finally, this last notion of energy independence. I talk about energy independence, but what we've shown you is it doesn't lead to energy independence because most of the uranium deposits are found outside of the Middle East. And for these reasons, because we don't believe in fatalism, because we believe in hope, and we believe that the Middle East can be more